The relationship between physical health and mental health is now well understood to have a strong connection to the sexual function or dysfunction. Can it be a coincidence then that all religions claim the right to legislate in matters of sex? The principal way in which believers inflict on themselves, on each other, and on non-believers has always been their claim to monopoly in this sphere. Most religions, with the exception of a few cults that actually permit or encourage it, don't have to bother much with enforcing the taboo on incest. Like murder and theft, this is usually found to be abhorrent to humans without any further explanation. But merely to survey the history of sexual dread and prescription as codified by religion is to be met with a very disturbing connection between extreme prurience and extreme repression. Almost every sexual impulse has been made the occasion for prohibition, guilt and shame, manual sex, oral sex, anal sex, non-missionary position sex, to name it is to discover a fearsome ban upon it. Even in modern and hedonistic America, several states legally define sodomy as that which is not directed at face-to-face heterosexual procreation. Now, this brings to mind another book that I'm reading right now. I just want to bring it to your attention. 1 second, please. I love this tape. I got these tapes at the Mansfield Flea Market. I got an incredible deal. I'm not even going to tell you what a deal I got, but thank you out there to you who sold this to me. I got a bunch of tapes of just, environmental sounds and kind of ambient music and just very relaxing kind of things that are, I just think, perfect for this show, and a bunch of other things that I often find myself doing. So thank you for making it available to me. And God, if you had a hand in it, I'm very appreciative. This book here is by George Feuerstein. It's called Sacred Sexuality: Living the Vision of the Erotic Spirit. This I also got at the Mansfield Flea Market, and I'm very interested in reading this because I think sexuality and spirituality are just so obviously connected that it's silly that we've created cultures of religion and hatred and intolerance that is based on basically the separation of the two.
Yeah, baby.
And anytime we do that, as you know by the title of the show, we run into the problem of breaking that necessary delicate balance that makes things whole. And if spirit and sexuality are intended to be one, and we've been spending eons separating them, then guess who's going to be hurting? The other thing I'm looking into is, I'm not really excited about this guy. His name's Bart Ehrman, E-H-R-M-A-N. And he's somewhat of a scholar, I guess. But he's usually talking about New Testament texts and culture during early Christianity. But he's since become a non-Christian, and for that reason I sort of take a lot of what he says with a grain of salt, because it's kind of like he's, instead of just looking at the material and giving us what's it's likely to be saying or what best can be taken from studying a certain piece of literature from early Christianity. He's more looking to poke holes in the authenticity of experience, and it's unfortunate, because I think mystically, I think there's a lot of experience going on in here, and if he was looking at these stories through the power of myth and the power of the truth in the stories, as opposed to just debunking it all as fiction, then I think it would be more useful. But anyway, I got that from the Teaching Company. And so we're looking at that. But anyway, I just want to show you that Sacred Sexuality book by Feuerstein. Because here it is, Christopher is talking about sexuality and spirituality here on page 54 of his book, God is Not Great. And before I get back to this, I just want to mention about Tim Russert passing. I just think it's a marvel that our nation, in so many ways, at so many levels, has been touched by this man because of his integrity, his honesty, his commitment to the ideal of investigating and presenting all sides of stories, giving people a fair shot of explaining themselves, trying to present things in an unbiased way, and in his private life, his devotion to his family. Just a remarkable human being. It's terribly sad that he's been taken so quickly from us, but I think quite a testament, though, to our nation, especially in this time of turmoil, where wherever we turn, things look to be pretty bleak, at least from the news anyway. But to see the nation really resonate with someone because of their commitment and their passion to present facts and help the country stay free and free disclosure of ideas, etc., in a humble, respectful manner that Tim always displayed, I think is actually a good sign that we might not be totally lost. Okay, this raises gigantic objections to the argument from design, whether we choose to call that design intelligent or not. Clearly, the human species is designed to experiment with sex. No less clearly, this fact is well known to the priesthoods. When Dr. Samuel Johnson had completed the first real dictionary of the English language, he was visited by a delegation of respectable old ladies who wished to congratulate him for not including any indecent words. His response, which was that he was interested to see that the ladies had been looking them up, contains almost all that needs to be said on this point. Orthodox Jews conduct Congress by means of a hole in the sheet and subject their women to ritual baths to cleanse the strain of menstruation. Muslims subject adulterers to public lashings with a whip. Christians used to lick their lips while examining women for signs of witchcraft. I need not go on in this vein. Any reader of this book will know of a vivid example, or will simply guess my meaning. A consistent proof that religion is man-made and anthropomorphic can also be found in the fact that it's usually man-made in the sense of masculine as well. The Holy Book, in the longest continuous use, the Talmud, commands the observant one to thank his Maker every day that he was not born a woman. This raises again the insistent question, who but a slave thanks his master for what his master has decided to do without bothering to consult him? The Old Testament, as Christians condescendingly call it, has woman cloned from man for his use and his comfort. The New Testament has St. Paul expressing both fear and contempt for the female. And throughout all religious texts, there is a primitive fear that half the human race is simultaneously defiled and unclean, and yet it's also temptation to sin that is impossible to resist. Perhaps this explains the hysterical cult of virginity and of a virgin and the dread of the female form and of female reproductive functions. And there may be someone who can explain the sexual and other cruelties of the religious without any reference to the obsession with celibacy, but that someone will not be me. I simply laugh when I read the Quran with its endless prohibitions on sex and its corrupt promise of infinite debauchery in the life to come. It's like seeing through the let's pretend of a child, but without the indulgence that comes from watching the innocent at play. The homicidal lunatics were rehearsing to be genocidal lunatics of 9/11 were perhaps tempted by virgins, but it's far more revolting to contemplate that, like so many of their fellow jihadists, they were virgins. Like monks of old, the fanatics are taken early from their families, taught to despise their mothers and sisters, and come to adulthood without ever having had a normal conversation, let alone a normal relationship with a woman. This is disease by definition, and Christianity is too repressed to offer sex in paradise. Indeed, it's never been able to evolve a tempting heaven at all. But it has been lavish in its promise of sadistic and everlasting punishment for sexual backsliders, which is nearly as revealing and making the same point in a different way.